All right, breaking news now. Israel inching closer to a hostage deal, fingers are crossed, with Hamas that could happen just hours from now. And while that's going on, Hollywood haters of the Jewish state are out in full force. Case in point, liberal actress Susan Sarandon trafficking in blatant anti-Semitism while attending several pro-Palestinian rallies. The Oscar winner joining in on chants like "From the River to the Sea," nice, which calls for the destruction of Israel. And now she's mocking Jewish people who fear for their safety.
There are a lot of people that are afraid of being Jewish at this time and are getting a taste of what it feels like to be a Muslim in this country, so often subjected to violence. It's important to listen. It's important to have facts. Try to take a breath before you answer. And if it's possible, have a conversation. We need a ceasefire now.
Okay, there you go. But it looks like words have consequences. Hollywood talent agent UTA, one of the biggest in the business, says Sarandon is no longer rep by them. And academia continues to be a cesspool of Israel hatred. Another case in point, professor at Wake Forest University sparking outrage over what she posted. She posted a vile fantasy on social media saying, quote, tempted to shoot up the dance parties just like Hamas terrorists did on October 7th. The radical professor resigning over that, and she's now whining that the school threw her to the wolves and disappointed her. Jesse, you feel as though this is Susan Sarandon has a point.
I'm shocked she got dropped because this isn't anything new for Susan. Susan called the Pope a Nazi. Susan called the NYPD fascists. So I see what she's saying here, and the head of UTA is Jewish, I believe. There's a lot of Jewish people that work for UTA. They were upset. It seemed like they could have seen this coming, and it could have been managed over many, many years. But listen, I guess there's a line now. Everybody knows where it is. But I don't see the comparison because after 9/11, perhaps Muslim Americans were singled out at the airport. But other than that, I don't remember a lot of people chanting in the streets, "Gas the Muslims." I don't remember Muslims being murdered like the guy in a protest in Los Angeles. None of that actually happened. They wanted to put a mosque down by Ground Zero. That was the worst of it, from what I recall. Now, this other professor, this is what I like to see happen. I want to see these donors dangle money in front of these universities. You remember how Joe Biden dangled $1 million in front of Ukraine? I'd do that. I'd say, you're not getting this $1 million if the entire creative writing department isn't fired. And that's how you have to do it, because there's a lot of rancid hate coming out of these universities.
Right. A source that I know, I talked to them, and that she apologized initially and came back and doubled down the next day, Dana. And that's when they said, this is the easiest decision ever. We're done with you.
Well, and some of the people that defended her today said, well, there's a First Amendment right. But the First Amendment right keeps you out of jail. Right. It doesn't mean that you won't have consequences for things that you say. Mm-hmm. And I suppose she's wealthy enough that it doesn't really matter to her. Does she really care if UTA drops her? She's probably glad. She's like, I don't have to pay that commission anymore. Right. Fine, see you later. But the other thing is that happened yesterday. Sheryl Sandberg, who used to be with Facebook and part of the Clinton administration, she put out a video asking women to think about for 1 second speaking up on behalf of the women who were raped in Israel at the raid, on the terrorist attack. And it seemed to me like that's just something that should happen. The UN Women's Group, they still have not said anything. They will not do that. And so I look at some of these people. We have a block later on coming up, and it's like for women who have been successful to just turn such a blind eye to the suffering of other women, regardless of who they are, what they look like, or where they live, is really appalling to me. Jessica, your thoughts on the dropping of Susan Sarandon and this continued craziness on campus?
I think it was definitely the right decision. Retracting your apology, whether you knew that she espoused crazy views, which everyone does know, doesn't make a difference. It's abhorrent what she said. It will, unfortunately for anti-Semites, just continue to fuel the Jews run Hollywood, Jews control all the money thing. But you know what? Don't care. Right. Happy to be in charge. Happy she got dropped. Something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I know the judge wants to talk about this aspect of it too, so I won't go on too long about it, but is, all of these so-called allies of the Arab world are very quiet as Arabs are murdered en masse under normal circumstances. When Assad kills millions and displaces them.
For years.
Decades.
Yep.
And I thought this was astounding. So Israel was created in 1948, right? Necessary because 6 million Jews were killed in camps or in ovens. And since then, 11 million Arabs have been killed, and less than 0.03% of them have been killed by Israelis, right? So the rest of the Arab world are the ones who are usually doing the dirty work here. We don't hear anything about it. I mean, there are groups, I'm sure, that talk about it. People aren't taken to the streets talking about what's going on in Yemen or who's being pushed out. And the only difference is that Jews are involved now. And they don't talk for a second about over 1,200 people were killed, like you said. I thought Sheryl Sandberg's video was hugely powerful. The way that they were murdered, that's not battle. That's not warfare. That is torture.
Carnage. Yeah.
And carnage. And
Great points. That was awesome. Thelma and Louise 3, she no longer has to pay commission. So that'll be a big relief for her. What are your thoughts about her?
Look, I mean, she's always been a liberal, off-the-wall liberal. I mean, I don't respect her opinion, and I think it's appropriate that UTA dropped her. That's number one. Number two, she is so worried about the Muslims. I mean, her quote is that, you know, it is, you know, they finally get to feel, the Jews finally get to feel the way Muslims have felt. I mean, she has no idea what she's talking about. First of all, there are 50 majority Muslim countries in this world where Muslims can do and say what they want. They can act out their religion. They can live their lives according to, you know, their religion and how they want to live. There is one Jewish country, and it is a very small one at that. And yet she's so upset about it. And, you know, as Jessica said, we've been talking about this for years. ISIS beheaded tens of thousands of Muslims. Nobody marched. Nobody called for a ceasefire. Assad and Gaddafi and the Saudi Arabians, they killed the Yemenis, and nobody says boo.
And what they do
But
to
it
women.
reminds me of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter only matter if there's a cop killing a black life.
Right.
And as it relates to the Arabs, the only time that the Arab lives matters is if a Jew kills them. But if a Jew is killing them pursuant to the laws of war that are appropriate after you've suffered a massacre of medieval proportions, they don't even recognize the law. So I don't see this woman as that bright, as that knowledgeable about history, about where we are, and about the fact that anti-Semitism has risen now, what is it? 400%. And she's now worried about it. And, you know, it even took a Muslim woman, I think her name was Noor Asram, who talked about the fact that they don't understand what it's like for us. We can't say in our own country what we can say in America. So shame on Susan Sarandon.
Right. And plus, the whole Arab world will tell you they'd love Hamas eradicated off the face of the earth. And Iran is the problem. Fundamentally, it's all we're going to be sitting here. And it's all going to come down to Iran. Without them, there is really no issues.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.